the Wizards deck really relies on those creatures to do damage early, but thanks to things like Vashno Pyromancer, you have your creatures kind of dealing damage as they go, so they don't always need to attack, they just need to resolve.
Yeah, that is the one of the benefits of playing the Wizard style of this mono red deck as opposed to one that is more dependent on getting in the red zone.
All right, on your right, Brandon Carpenter's Azorius Control leads with Rogran Triome. On your left, Evan Smith's Mono Red Wizards. That's going to be a Commander faces Kakazan as a turn 1 play. A very common play because it allows you to put a counter on your second turn creature. Here comes 2 Triomes. This is not quite domain. We're missing green, so right now the Leyline Binding costs 2. Here is Monastery Swiftspear that's going to get the counter. Going to attack for 2. See if Evan has a follow-up. It's going to be a Soulscar Mage. Pretty heavy pressure here. Let's see if Carpenter has the answer with the temporary lockdown right now.
Yeah, under this much pressure, kind of needs it.
Yeah, I mean, 3 creatures all coming in. Temporary lockdown is particularly good in this spot because it knocks off Commander faces Kakazan, but Carpenter has this look on his face that's just defeated, and he doesn't even have a 3rd land. He's in trouble. Commander's going to flip. It's going to be a huge attack. Yeah, any burn spells, too.
Min 5, add 2 damage to every burn spell with those 2 prowess creatures. And I see Den of the Bugbear and Ramanap Runes in hand along the mountain, so kind of land-heavy hand here for Evan Smith. Might not have a ton of burn to take advantage of these prowess creatures.
No, it doesn't. And we do have a play here from Brandon Carpenter. This is a 2-mana Leyline Binding. This is fine. This is going to knock off the Swiftspear, and we're going to deal 2 less damage. Still, 2, 3, 4 coming in, and Carpenter down to 13. Okay. And I know there's a Den of the Bugbear and a Ramanap Runes hanging out. Let's see if he wants to put another creature on the table.
Another prowess creature with a second Soulscar Mage, so Evan Smith really dying to draw burn spells at this point, and Carpenter might have a little bit of time to claw out of this.
You missed it. You could have said, and Brandon Carpenter really dying. All right, the draw here looks like Bone Crusher Giant, so that's going to trigger some prowess, going to deal some damage, and not add any more pressure to the board, but it does do some damage here. Here we go for another binding. Let's see what that targets. Commander faces Kakazan. And now, three damage coming in. That's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Carpenter down to 5. And with the Den of the Bugbear and Ramanap Ruins, you got to be sweating bullets. If you're Brandon Carpenter, and game 1 might already be done.
Yeah, even if it's land temporary lockdown here, you're going to take 4 from the Den of the Bugbear, and then the Ramanap Ruins will take care of it. Even if you had a Field of Ruin to take care of the Ramanap Ruins, they would just reactivate the Den.
Yeah, it's really tough stuff, honestly, if you're an Azorius control player, because in this spot, like, you can never miss a land drop, right? Like, if you keep a 2-lander and you don't hit your 3rd land, that exact thing happens to you because your opponent is just able to essentially deploy their whole hand in the first 4 turns. And if you don't have the capability to sweep those creatures with Temporary Lockdown or Supreme Verdict, oftentimes 1-for-1 removal is not good enough. These decks are used to fighting through spot removal, like Fatal Push. And, if you're trying to 1-for-1 them to death, they're very good at going over the top of you.
That is exactly what happens. So Evan Smith takes a game 1 here. Will now be, moving to the sideboard, looking to insulate his deck against some of the disruption from Azorius control. And looking at what he's got, it's a lot of removal with 4 copies of Rending Volley, 4 Obliterating Bolt, 2 Roast, and a Red Cap Melee. Not sure if he's going to want many of those, but does have a few additional threats. He has 1 Goblin Chain Whirler, 1 Roiling Vortex, 1 Hazoret the Fervent, and 1 Chandra Torch of Defiance. I definitely like those 4 drops, the Hazoret and the Chandra.
Yep.
Not sure if I like the Roiling Vortex enough, though. It can be good against Absorb.
I think it's the only problem with it is that it gets swept up in the temporary lockdown. It used to be great against Azorius control because it was a threat you could play that didn't die to Supreme Verdict, and it had the ability to let you use extra mana to prevent life gain from things like Absorb or maybe like a Baneslayer Angel out of the sideboard or Lyra Dawnbringer or something like that. At this stage, though, it's more of a card that just is an anti-combo card for Lotus Field because it messes up Merge Ultimatum, and there's a couple other matchups where it's like okay to good.
Yeah, and then looking at Carpenter's sideboard, we have 2 Aether Gust, 1 Baneslayer Angel, 1 Brimaz King of Oreskos, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Dovin's Veto, 1 Farewell, 1 Lyra Dawnbringer, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Settle the Wreckage, 1 Temporary Lockdown. Definitely like the Lockdown, which is a 3rd copy. There's 2 in the main. Definitely like the Angels, because for as much removal as Evan Smith has in the sideboard, none of them cleanly answer a 5/5 flyer. It's all 4 damage or less, or 5 damage to a non-flyer with
Yeah.
roast.
Or Rending Volley deals 4 to a blue or white creature. You know?
So 2 angels definitely coming in. I don't mind the Aether Gusts. I think those are good at just buying time.
There's a ton that comes in, right? There's a lockdown, removal, big creatures. Even Breemaz is excellent here, right?
Brimaz seems okay.
There's no way he's bringing in removal spells. Breemaz is going to be a dumpster. It's going to put him down.
Yeah, I mean, we call this the mono red burn, and it's the Wizards variant. Evan's build is less burn heavy than most because you've got that Kumano faces Kakazan as an additional threat. The only true burn spells are Stomp, and then Wizard's Lightning, Play with Fire, and Skewer the Critics. So
that's plenty.
Yeah, it is quite a bit, but less than these builds usually have. So you still probably want these Dovin's Vetoes. Really, you're just trying to get some of the expensive cards out of your deck.
All right, so we're getting ready for game number 2. Players going to be taking a peek at their opening 7s. Brandon Carpenter going to be on the play. Down a game against Evan Smith's Mono Red Wizards. And we're going to be taking a trip to Mulligan Town. Brandon Carpenter doesn't like the 7. Maybe the 6 will be a little bit better.
I definitely saw 2 Kumanos in Evan Smith's hand. At least 1 land, but not sure if I saw a second.
All right.
See if he is kind enough to pick his hand back up and give us a little peek. He's more of the stoic, put my hand down, stare at my opponent. I kind of do that too, so I can't blame him.
I just get lost in thought or whatever. I just get bored. For a long time, they had a rule where like you just were never allowed to look at your phone once you sat down for your match. Now with like pairings on MTG Melee and people just like not really caring anymore. As long as you like have permission, you can just like browse Twitter. So, but back in the day, I would just sit there just being like, I would maybe look like I was thinking about what was going to happen in the match, but really I was just dreaming about, Aqua Teen Hunger Force,
well,
Venture Brothers.
Evan Smith at this point, I think, is dreaming about a trip to the regional championship because Brandon Carpenter just took a second mulligan there. I think a hand that just didn't have the lands to be functional on his second try. So third time's going to have to be the charm for Brandon Carpenter, and he is now back against the wall, down a game, and on 5 cards to start this second one.
Yeah, and being on 5 as a control deck is particularly annoying because you have to keep lands, but you can easily flood out, right? Because if you put back 2 spells and keep 3 or 4 lands in your opener, you can have 1 piece of interaction, maybe 2, and then you're just at the mercy at the top of your deck. But it looks like Carpenter is even going to take 1 more mulligan. This is down to 4. You got to think Evan doing some fist pumps in the air mentally right now. Not going to do it to Brandon Carpenter's face, but everyone knows that you're just screaming 3, 3, 3.
Evan, rub it in.
Yeah, I like rubbing it in.
Rub it in. You have my permission, Evan.
All right, well, a 4-card hand. I don't know too many that you would mulligan to 3, especially in a blue-white control deck.
I think I'd want to have a turn 1 Triumph, so my Leyline Bindings were turned on.
Yeah, and it looks like a Make Disappear, so like 2 land Make Disappear, and Leyline Binding seems like a decent one.
Oh, I don't think it's an actual Leyline Binding. That's just for future draws. I think it is a temporary lockdown.
Okay, 3-land temporary lockdown is a great 4.
Yeah, if Evan Smith has a triple 1-drop start, a 3-for-1 temporary lockdown could go a long way towards getting Carpenter back into this game. Place the tap land because it looks like he had 4 lands locked down. That wasn't a Make Disappear. It's a Deserted Beach.
Well, sorry, he had to Make Disappear, but he put it on the bottom. He kept 3-land lockdown.
Okay.
All right, here's another Kumano that's going to deal another damage. Do we have a 1-mana spell, or are we just going to pass the turn?
You would think Evan Smith would have a creature here to go for the second chapter, but does not. So this is only going to be a 2-for-1 off the lockdown. Not sure if that's going to be good enough to get Carpenter back into this game.
Well, Carpenter might wait. With that Monstrous Whisper looming next turn, maybe it's just play Field of Ruin, maybe blow up one of those Den of the Bugbear and say go. And then you have to try to get max value out of all your cards. With a mulligan to 4, you just have no resources to trade anymore.
Yeah, I agree that max value is important here, and you haven't been put under a ton of early pressure, so you can take a little bit of damage here. This is going to be an attack for at least 4, because that second Kumano will put a counter on the Swift Spear.
All right, here comes the swing for 4. Carpenter down to 14. Smith has multiple burn spells in hand. Gonna go ahead and skewer upstairs. Bang, 3 damage.
Upstairs.
Down to 11. Has a Wizard's Lightning in hand, but no Wizards in play just yet. I believe has a Chandra in hand as the far left card, but that might just be an Unhinged Mountain.
Here's the lockdown for Carpenter. Gonna sweep these 3 non-land permanents off the battlefield.
All right. Well, the 2 Kamanos are really the thing that check the most because this Light of the Stage hit a land drop as well as the creature. And here we go. We have Rolling Vortex.
Okay.
That was a nice one, but still unable to play temporary, or still unable to play the Wizard's Lightning just yet.
There's an Absorb for Carpenter, though the Vortex is pretty good against that.
Is that a full art card? What is that card on the far right of his hand? Oh, it is. It's just an Unhinged Mountain. He just has Mismatched Mountains. Okay. All right. Here's Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. This is the way that Brandon Carpenter gets out of this. He has essentially no resources left. We're going to draw a card. We're having technical difficulties again. Sorry, chat. We'll have that fixed in just a second. I believe our capture card keeps overheating. Not sure.
Well, this Teferi a little awkward on this turn because it is going to open a window for Evan Smith to get in with a Den of the Bugbear, which is a good chunk of damage that leaves a token behind. And we're back, and that is exactly what Evan Smith is doing, taking advantage of this window where there's only 2 mana untapped. You need 3 for the Field of Ruin. And, you know, just putting Carpenter to 6 here, go to 5 on upkeep from the Rolling Vortex. You've got Ramanap Ruins plus Wizard's Lightning in hand. That's 5 damage.
Yeah, and without something like Absorb, Brandon Carpenter's life total is under extreme duress, and this Rolling Vortex threatens to keep him from gaining life anyway. Does pick up a temporary lockdown, so can use that to get rid of the Vortex and the token, but unfortunately for him, the Den of the Bugbear is still a threat. Now, it does get to untap with Teferi, so might have the ability to handle that with the Field of Ruin, but as you said, Ramanap Ruins plus Wizard's Lightning, that could be GG.
Yeah. So the other awkward thing here is Brandon has to keep up the Field of Ruin. Yeah, there we go. Goes to untap that one.
But you
to
wait for
stop
the
these
activation,
dens.
right? So if he activates
Yeah.
Den, you blow it. If he doesn't, you just hold up Absorb. Does have Chandra. Had it last turn, could have just played that instead of the Den, but all right, here comes.
Okay. Is this good enough to absorb? Yeah, I think almost anything has to be for Carpenter, especially anything that takes Evan Smith off of an attack with Den. But now this Chandra going to resolve.
Yeah, and that's going to immediately plus and deal 2 damage to Brandon, and exile the top card.
Okay, so Pyromancer gets exiled. Carpenter going to go to 6. Teferi can tuck this Chandra.
Yep, and you do have the field to check a Den, so the game is not over. Brandon Carpenter, mulliganing to 4, might have found a way out, and picks up Settle the Wreckage, another defensive element. And here we see the minus. Chandra going to get put back into the deck. 2 from the top.
Yeah, but Wizard's Lightning plus Ramanap Ruins right now is 1 damage short. The Lightning could now go with the Teferi if Smith wants to do that.
I really do not mind that play. At 6 life, the extra cards from Teferi, you can't really attack with the Den. Picks up a Bone Crusher. That's technically threatening lethal over the next 2 turns with the Ramanap and the 2 spells. Maybe he'll go for the burn. Maybe he'll try to kill the Teferi.
Yeah, tough spot for Evan Smith. Doesn't know the card left for Carpenter, which is a Settle the Wreckage. Looks like... So Stomp going upstairs, Carpenter going to 4. And he's just playing the 4/3. So trying to maximize his cards here. Our director mentioned something about this Hallowed Fountain.
I think he may have untapped lands with Teferi, even though he minused. I'm not sure what happened.
Oh.
You have that mechanical thing. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it's not a big deal. All right.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to change Evan Smith's play.
So Evan Smith goes for Stomp into Cast Bone Crusher Giant, shrinking the life total of Carpenter, and putting a threat on the table.
Make disappear?
It looks like a make disappear. I also think we have a Settle the Wreckage.
Yeah, that's what we had in hand, and that looks like a Memory Deluge is the draw off the Teferi. So, yeah, cast Deluge. Now we're doing 4 cards deeper.
Find
Wandering Emperor.
That 2 life could be good.
Is that a March of Purifying Light? Well, we'll see in a second what 2 cards Carpenter is going to get. But now down to 3 mana. It's going to be tough. He's going to get 2 more, I guess, off of the Teferi with the untap. So that'll probably untap Field of Ruin in one of those dual lands. So access to 5 mana for Carpenter on Smith's turn.
Okay. Plays Rogern Triumph. We do get to untap 2.
So the Trio must have come off of the
Deluge.
Deluge. Maybe found a Leyline Binding and wanted the Triumph to make it be costing 2 now.
Yep.
Yeah. No,
Right.
found a Wandering Emperor. So we have. Okay.
Here's Lava Runner. It does have haste. We're gonna attack both at face probably. See, we know we have Wizard's Lightning in hand. Let's see how Carpenter wants to deal with this. Settle the Wreckage at the ready. Only 1 card in hand for Evan. Unlikely to be lethal with only 5 mana since we can't Wizard's Lightning and Raymond Ruins.
I like this. Got to use the settle here.
All right. I like Wizard's Lightning now while the shields are down. And then next turn, with the settled mana, you might be able to activate 2 lands to do stuff.
Yeah, you effectively force the Field of Ruin on the Ramanap Ruins at that point. So exile that. We get 2 mountains. That's going to put Evan Smith up to 8 total mana. You're going to need 10 to double activate an attack with the dens. So even a land off the top will not do it. But still putting Carpenter to 1.
Well, can't you go activate Den, declare attacks? If it gets blown up, you float a mana, and then you can activate.
Ooh.
Not dealing the 3 damage here with the shields down means that something like Absorb is going to be backbreaking.
And there's another Field of Ruin into a Hallowed Fountain. So the second field is relatively helpful. There is also a Wandering Emperor. So we should be pretty safe here.
All right, and he's going to go ahead and blow up the Raymond Ruins, but we can just sack it in response.
Yeah.
We were very patient with our stuff, so now...
But I think it's a den that got targeted.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
we're floating a red and getting a mountain. So Evan Smith with a red mana in pool now.
Okay. Land for turn from Carpenter. I think he... Oh, yeah, he just got that out of the deck from the field. Okay, so we have mana floating. We can blast with the Raminap.
Yeah, I don't think Carpenter has anything to stop Ramanap Ruin Sacrifice into untap Wizards of Lightning you. Because the make disappear is not enough. Evan Smith has plenty of extra mana.
Okay.
Uses that red floating along with those 3 tapped lands to sack the Ramanap Ruins. And yeah, Carpenter untaps his lands from Teferi. And
Here we go. What are you going to do? Draw for turn. There's another Den of the Bugbear. Might go Den Pass, afraid of a counterspell. Could go upkeep Wizard's Lightning. Maybe just wants Brennan to bite first.
okay, we're fielding again. I mean, float a red. That's about when Evan Smith wants to time this. I think he'll probably cast it on Carpenter's upkeep.
Yeah, it feels like he's being timid, but I'm almost positive he's about to cast it. It's just when he wants to do it to maximize potential of making the opponent have it and spend mana in an awkward spot. If you cast it now, they get to use mana on the end step. That might mean being able to do extra things on the next turn.
Yeah, and Carpenter might even just go for the Deluge here.
All right, upkeep, zap ya.
Well, but now that there's 9 mana, right, and a Deluge in the graveyard?
Okay, so maybe you can go for Deluge. The Wandering Emperor needs a target, I think, to gain the life.
Yeah.
Now, we can bring it up. It might say up to 1 target creature and then gain 2 life. I know that if you choose a target creature...
Exile target tapped creature. There is no target for the Wandering Emperor on the battlefield, so maybe Carpenter not understanding that.
Okay, no. So there are 4 mana untap, but we're going for a make disappear with casualty, but we can just pay the 4, so...
Yeah, we have the 4 for that. So.
Nice thought from Brandon Carpenter. If there was 1 fewer mana source on the other side of the table, it would have worked. Maybe
we,
that Field
we
of
had the
Ruin
deluge in the graveyard. We could have dug for a Dovin's Veto.
It wouldn't be the first time someone forgot about a deluge in the graveyard today, Ross.